right. Hello and welcome to Antigravity Wellness Podcast. And this is going to be our first one with some guests. So I'm Dr. Nicole Smith. I'm the founder of Antigravity Wellness. And today I have Betty McLean from Aim for Greatness Coaching. She is a registered nurse and a life coach. And I have Jessica Hewsome. She is from Touch of Harmony Massage. She's a massage therapist, specializes in TMJ massage, oral massage, migraine relief, and things like that. So we have our little group that we get together once a month for our little brunch. And we were just talking about everything in the world and realized that we had the best topic for a podcast. At least we think so, maybe. So, it always sounds brilliant, right? When you're in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we'll start first with introductions. You guys kind of know me and my story. So we will go to Betty. Tell us a little bit more about you and your history.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'm Betty McLean. I've been a nurse for 20 years this year. And several years ago, I was in burnout, like a lot of nurses, although I didn't realize it. And so I left a job that I loved. I left a hospital job, went to in-home care, which is actually wonderful. But it was, I dealt with a lot of emotions that I wasn't expecting to. But during the course of leaving the hospital and starting in-home care, I found life coaching. And I have decided that that really is why I'm still able to work as a nurse. So I decided more people needed that. So I run Aim for Greatness Coaching, where I coach nurses who are feeling overwhelmed and out of control, dreading their job, and I help them recover from burnout and all of that without necessarily needing to leave their career that they love. So that is who I am and what I love.
I love it. I have myself worked with Betty, and I was really, really eye-opening. It's amazing how, like in healthcare, and that's why we have this group of not just business owners and women, but also healthcare workers, because we treat people and that takes a toll.
It does.
It takes a huge toll. And there's that caregiver fatigue that we all go through. So how do we continue to do the thing that we love to do, that we got into this for, without getting that burnout, without turning into Nurse Cratchit or whatever, and hating our lives and becoming that person that we don't want to be. So I love that that's what she does. And she's helped me personally. So.
And she's helped me personally.
Yes.
I'm not a nurse, but I am a licensed massage therapist.
Yeah.
So I founded Touch of Harmony Massage back in 2019. Technically 2018, but that's when I actually transitioned, was 2019, to being a full solo practitioner. So yeah, I've been a massage therapist for about 6 years. Before that, I spent 10 years in dentistry. So that's where I got my start in healthcare. Obviously, dentistry is a stressful environment for patients. So I noticed a lot of people were tensing. A lot of people had a lot of anxiety. And I was that steady person in the office that could help soothe them. And that transitioned into, I need to soothe myself and be in a career that's not as stressful, getting that burnout, right?
Yep.
So I decided to go into my lifelong calling of massage therapy. I've always wanted to do it. And so I got licensed. I was able to transition into it very smoothly, running my own practice right off the bat, because I already had the experience of, managing dental offices and things like that. I'm just doing all of those behind the scenes things. And so now I specialize in TMJ massage, which is in the mouth, which is fantastic for alleviating headaches and migraines, things like that. It's been a wonderful transition. I'm happy to be soothing people and helping them to work through their trauma, their maybe not their emotional trauma in an emotional sense, but in a physical sense.
Well, and for someone who is so I don't get massages very often because I have a very low pain tolerance, and we've talked about that. But like you the massages that I've received from you you've been very kind and very gentle with me, because I'm not one of those people that loves you to get in there and dig into muscles and whatnot. And I love that in your practice, you're very holistic in the way you look at your patients. It's not every patient gets the same massage, same pressure, let's go, right? Like, you're very conscientious, I guess, and very aware of what the patient needs, because I don't need the same thing as maybe Nicole needs. Nicole's like, more pressure.
Get in there.
Yeah, well, and as healthcare workers, we have to be
Yep.
able to take the patient themselves, see what's going on with them
Yeah.
personally, and adjust, our treatment
Yep.
to what they need. And
Yeah.
I think all three of us are very good at doing that.
Yeah, I agree.
Customized care. Yes.
Yes, exactly.
I love it. Yeah.
Well, we were discussing life, and I appreciate the fact that Jessica is willing to share because she's kind of going through it right now. We were talking about how, like, a lot of us have expertise in certain areas because we've been through some things, we've had trainings, that then there's other things that we're new at, we're still learning, and even just going through some life experiences. And so how can we help each other as women come together and say, like, you're not alone and you're not crazy.
Yeah.
And this isn't forever. And I can tell you that from my personal experience and from what I've seen from my friends and things like that, that what you're going through is not going to be here forever. And you will get through this, even though it feels so hard right now.
Yeah.
So, and this was more in relation to, I mean, we were talking about business, of course, but also like relationships. So me personally, I'll go first. I'm married now, very happily married now, but I had 2 failed relationships that were very serious before. I had one that I was in for 7 years, and I was engaged to him. We lived together and all the things. And then, in that one, it ended because I grew up and realized that wasn't the person I was supposed to be with. He was not a bad person. Nobody cheated on anybody. But it just wasn't there anymore, which was really hard because you want it to still be there. So we tried for like 2 years to make it be there, and it just wasn't there. Yeah. So that ended. And I'm not in contact with him anymore. I hear he's doing well and got married and had a kid, and I'm very happy for him. And then my other one, I was in for about 3 years. We were engaged, and ended very badly. Caught him cheating on me, and I was in the doctorate program and working 2 jobs and supporting us, and it was bad. And it just ripped the world out from underneath my feet. So we were talking about that and how you start over. Like when you were going down a certain path and you thought your life was going to look a certain way. And it doesn't even matter, like whether it's relationships or a job loss or a family loss, like what do you do when the world gets ripped out from under your feet? And then especially like a relationship, if you have to pull yourself out of there. I had the analogy that the girls loved, and everyone's welcome to take it, but it's like 2 plants that are in a pot, and the roots get all intertwined together, and then you have to pull it apart, and it's painful, and it rips and it tears things, and it damages both parties, but then you take the one that you want and you put it in its own little space, and you give it the soil that it needs, which is like your friends. We were just riffing on the garden analogies, and
it worked.
It really did.
Yeah, exactly.
And just how that works. So
and to the point of the plant analogy. So when you've got your new little plant or your plant that you've separated out and it's broken and it's traumatized, right? But when you're repotting that plant, you're not just like, oh, here's the one I want. I guess I'll toss it in that plant over there, and I'll toss a little bit of, is this good soil for it? I don't know. You toss some soil in there. You're like, yeah, well, hopefully it's great. When you're not going to do that with a plant that you care about. So what you do is you take it, right, and you go to like a garden store and you pick out just the right pot size for it, and you get the soil that's special for that plant, and you make sure it's amended properly and all those things, right? And you're being very intentional about taking care of this plant, right? So often when we go through a major life event, we end a relationship, we end a career, we end an addiction. This is so really, I've never ended a major relationship. My husband and I didn't have, before we started dating, we didn't have any major relationships before each other, which was really cool. But so we've been married for 18 years, and it's really a beautiful place to be with somebody who you've had that, that growth with. But I've had things in my life that I've had to remove intentionally, that I've wanted to remove intentionally, but it still causes trauma, right? It still causes it changes your identity, right? So when you're thinking about removing a relationship, removing a habit or an addiction, or maybe your body's just literally changing, and the person you were in your 30s is suddenly taken away from you because your hormones just changed. Right? And it causes trauma. When you can enter that repotting intentionally and pick that right soil and pick those right friends and pick that scaffolding that you want around your plant, right? When you can do that with a little bit of forethought instead of subconsciously, that plant is going to thrive, right? Rather than just tossing it in the corner and being like, good luck, little plant, and not think about it. But you have to think about it. Yeah. It takes a little bit of work. That's what that
Yes,
was. I love that analogy for that reason, but it takes work.
Oh, it takes work. Yes. And you have to keep weeding.
Yes.
They keep coming back.
Yes.
I love the analogy we had earlier with the seeds.
Wild oats. Those wild oats.
They just pop up everywhere.
Yeah. The analogy was basically a dandelion, and that's the person that my roots had to be separated from.
Yeah.
He was spreading his little dandelion seeds everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, the plant analogy really works. And, and taking that information from this conversation, I'm so blessed to have girlfriends that are so intelligent and so thoughtful. And you guys elevate me anyway. Yeah. But just having these conversations with intelligent women and having these relationships really helps solidify, I got to pick the right pot. I picked a great pot to plant in. And, now I have to make sure that I have the right soil, the right fertilizer, so that I can have, so that I can bloom.
Yeah. 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 Because you're going through all of that. Your roots are ripped out and maybe some chunks are missing, and because separating out from another human, that's a lot. Not only is the emotional, but there's like the literal, we got to go, like you're saying, got to go to the bank, got to go to take care of the property, got to get all that sorted out. And it's a lot. Mm-hmm. And if you're staying in that subconscious, unaware place, the trauma of that is going to be very, very difficult to heal from. Mm-hmm. But if you can get some awareness and consciously work through it, oh yeah, this is hard. I do need to work through this consciously. And it is hard work. Maybe I need some support. Maybe I need, in this stage of my life, maybe I need a coach. Maybe I need to be seeing my doctor more regularly. Maybe, so I think that you've been really smart, because I've seen you through this process.
From the beginning of it.
Yeah. And you've been really, and not
proactive.
Yeah. You've been, that's the word. You've been very proactive, and not saying that you're like rainbows and daisies and you're like, oh, I've got support.
Yeah, so I'm great. It's not a struggle.
Right.
Yeah. It takes focus, and it takes a true love for myself to stay on track.
Yes.
And I have to have those days where sometimes I'm like, this is a bunch of crap.
Yep.
And I'm going to feel sorry for myself. And I'm sorry, Nicole, I'm going to have a piece of cake.
That's
frosting. Sometimes I have to nurture my soul.
Yeah. Well, that's how our brains are designed, though, is right. That I know I always harp on it. I know you guys have heard me talk about this before. I always harp on it. The motivational triad, right? Our survival brain, the part that keeps us alive, only cares about conserving energy, seeking pleasure, and avoiding pain. And so when you're going through a bunch of trauma, it makes sense that your body's like, I can't handle this. I just need comfort. I just need comfort.
Yeah.
Please. Yeah. And sometimes you give it to it. But if you can do it intentionally, you know what? Today, gosh darn it, I'm eating cake and I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
It becomes self-care rather than self-harm.
Well, it's kind of like if you overwater yourself. The water's the chocolate cake.
There you go.
If you overwater, then that also has a bad effect.
Right.
Having to live spherically balanced, you have to have time to grieve. You have to have time to be a mess.
Yes.
Because that's how we get to the point where we can flourish. And going through that mess. And yes, I have been very vocal about this because that's how I process.
Yeah.
But going through this mess has made me the incredible human being that I am. Yep. And that's from the beginning of life. It's not just this past relationship. But if I hadn't been through the Dandelion King, I would You know, I wouldn't have realized that dandelion root is really great for your body, you know?
Right.
So I mean,
Yeah.
there's like all these different, you know, scenarios I can play out in my
Right.
head. But
Yeah.
I mean, but it still nurtured me, even though it hurt,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I had to prune myself,
Yes.
Yeah.
you know?
That's the hard part. Like, when I caught my ex cheating on me, it was a bad relationship leading into that.
Mhm.
I wasn't gonna leave though.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Well, as women in our society, we're taught like stick it out, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you fix it.
You have to
Yeah,
fix this.
fix it.
Yeah.
What did you do?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and it was abusive, so he put it on
So
me
was
all
mine.
the time.
Exactly.
And so it perpetuated that whole
Yep.
thing that I am at fault here all the time.
Mhm.
It was always my fault.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was
So-
always at fault too.
Yes, until he broke me, and then I was like, oh no.
For you, was it a singular moment? Can
Oh,
you narrow
yes.
it down? Me too.
Oh, it crystal clear in my mind. I will never forget that day.
Mhm.
Ever forget that day.
Yeah.
And looking back, it was like
Yeah.
the best thing. I
Yeah.
thank him now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not there yet.
I know. So that was the other thing we were talking about.
I need
was-
to round up.
yeah. Talking about, the memories coming on my Facebook. Thanks, Facebook.
Yeah.
Or
It's really good at that.
Snapchat or whatever you have
Yeah.
that like
Yeah.
brings that back. I've got another girlfriend, same kind of thing. She just went through a divorce and she's finally getting to a good place. And I told her that I was like, it's going to get to the point where you're going to see those memories pop up. Thank you again. Social media. And instead of like the gut wrenching knife back in your heart, you're going to be like, whatever.
Yeah. You know, and it is
Right.
funny that you say that gut wrenching to the heart thing, because I have an iPhone, and so sometimes it just brings up photos randomly. It's like, hey, look at what you were doing at this point in time
Oh,
last year,
no.
right?
Mm.
And so I'll look, and literally I get a skip in my chest, like,
Mhm.
oh, it
Mhm.
startles me, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
then I have to sit there. I'm
Yeah.
like, just push it aside,
Yeah.
Jessica. It's fine.
Yeah, you're not there anymore. It's
Yeah.
it's the trauma. It's the
Yeah.
PTSD.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's CPTSD,
Yeah.
because you go through it chronically for
Yes.
so long
Yes.
that it takes so long to work it out.
Yeah.
And I work it out all the time on my table.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I know.
I
How
see
many
it
people do that
every day.
I've had moments too, and I think that's so you haven't fully done the intraoral on me yet. You've kind of gotten close, and like the last time you did like the little she's amazing. She does like everything. The little cups on my cheek,
Oh.
which I was like, I almost teared up. I was like, oh God, what's gonna happen?
Mhm.
Like it kind of almost panicked me, which was really funny because I've been seeing
Mm.
Jessica for a while now, so we
Mhm.
have and that's kind of the nice thing too. You find a massage therapist that you start to trust, and like you can
Yeah.
really like. It was like after the fourth session when I was like, I trust you, and we've got a good
Yeah.
relationship, so now I can really actually start letting go.
Mhm.
So you kind of got to work into that, but
Mhm.
when you did that, I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't think I could handle it, and I'm a little scared to do that. So it is interesting, and I've read stuff like that before, like the body keeps score,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That book.
Mhm.
We really do hold trauma in our
Mhm.
body, and
Mhm.
I really notice that with a lot of my clients too. As we get older,
Mhm.
a lot of women, especially like let's say you've had a bunch of pregnancies and births and miscarriage, and then you
Mhm.
had a relationship that didn't work out, and then you lost somebody in your it is amazing how much we are storing all of this trauma in our bodies, and we're having
Mhm.
pain that's
Mhm.
chronic. And I'm like, I can do quite a lot with
Absolutely.
diet and with hormone balancing and with
Mhm.
exercise, but
Mhm.
then we need Betty for the brain
Mhm.
and we need Jessica for the
body.
for the body. So
Yeah.
like this is why we bring together a team. And
Mhm.
I think, it like within us, we have our little team
Yeah.
for each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we're also creating that team for our clients.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you
Well,
guys are here.
it's I think currently the current climate in our society, I think we're getting away from it, but it's very much this medical model of you're a body and I'm going to give you a pill and it's going to fix it, right? That's our current healthcare model,
Yeah.
sick care model.
Yes.
But I think more and more people are understanding you, the human person that you're a body that's glorious and scarred, and
Mhm.
you're a physical body. You are your energetic like internal body,
Mhm.
right? With your gut microbiome and all your hormones, right? And you're a mind. So you're a physical body, but you've also got all kinds of internal things going on, and your brain is right there along for the ride. They aren't separate things.
Yep.
And the more that we can understand that our brains have trauma and our brains need things, and our body has trauma and it has needs, like the more that we understand that we can heal that connection, that's where our power is. That's where our ability to really enjoy life and to not feel as overwhelmed, and to be, when we have a stressor come into our life, we're like, we can respond with resilience. Like that doesn't come from just being like, well, I read a self-help book, so I should be resilient. No, it comes from healing that trauma in the body, dealing with your thoughts, like treating your internal world, understanding what triggers inflammation in your body, and like how your hormones. It's real. We are a holistic being. Yeah. And the sooner you can recognize that, the sooner you can start to heal, like really heal.
It's funny because when I started my practice and I named it Touch of Harmony, I really realized deep down my consciousness had a lot to do with that, because to be in harmony, it's not that I'm making you harmonious by touching you.
Right.
It's not about that. It's about you having an experience that allows you to be balanced and bring yourself into harmony and into peace. And that's a holistic thing.
Yeah.
I don't treat the brain. Yeah. I don't treat emotional trauma.
Right.
But we can get things moving so that you can.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I love that.
We're facilitators.
Yeah.
Yes.
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 Very much so.
Yes. I've had that feedback from clients too, that even just, and I try and remember that too, because God, can I make things complicated?
Yes, you can.
Oh,
you're
man,
so good.
I'm sorry. So trying to pull that back and like simplify things, because it is the one thing. It's the little seed, or the little stone, and the pebble effect and the ripple effect, like one thing, and then it starts to bleed into everything else. It's just like a bad thing, like a bad apple. Well, a good apple, I guess. I don't know what the analogy would be for that, but just that one thing. And like, that's why I harp on diet so hard, and sleep and exercise, but diet especially, because it's just amazing. I've seen people turn their lives around in a week.
Yeah.
By just eating better, and all of a sudden you feel better, and then you have the energy to start doing things like, do I address how I'm feeling right now?
Right.
Like, do I really need to turn to whatever to soothe myself? And if I do, then you have the consciousness to say, I'm making this choice. And it's not like, I don't know why I feel so bad. I feel bad all the time. It's just how I am. It's just my life. And I'm like, no.
It's funny because when I do chakra balancing in my practice, which is energy work, around the gut specifically, everybody's off in their gut.
Oh yeah.
And this is where, this facilitates those conversations between me and the client where I'm like, I think you need to go see Nicole for some medical evaluation. And I think you need to go see Betty so that she can help get your brain in the right space. So that all of us, can work together to help facilitate this human being's healing process.
Yeah.
What I've found with my clients is some people are, and I think this is just personality, like some people are very, like, how do I say this? When they're like, I'm ready for support. I'm ready to change. I'm not okay staying this way. Some people, like, their path to healing is through their body. They need to get in touch with their body, and they're like, wow, I really got a lot of tension. I should see a massage therapist, right? And if they can find the right massage therapist who can help start that process, they can heal. Some people, they're like, wow, I'm having hot flashes every night. I literally can't sleep because I'm sweating through my sheets every single freaking night. I heard this girl does hormone stuff. I'm going to go see her, right? And because you have a holistic mindset, you're able to go, yeah, we can fix that. And you carry all of your tension in your shoulders and your jaw. You need to see it. And you're a really negative person, but guess what? You can change that if you want to, right? And what I have found is I get a lot of people who are not in touch with their body, and they are not in touch with their emotions. They've been taught, let's be logical. Let's think this through. Be in your brain, right? And so it's so interesting when I can help those people like notice their emotions, and they're like, wow, I'm really like, I carry a lot of stress. I'm like, you need to see a massage therapist. And I know one who actually understands that this is all connected, right? And, I have people who will be like, well, I want to eat better. I'm like, yes, But there's a way to do that that's so powerful. You need to talk to Nicole, right?
Yeah.
But so I think for some people, like their entry is always going into healing and wellness is always going to be from like different perspectives.
Mhm.
But what I love is as practitioners, if we can get people in like for me with mindset, then I can help guide them to additional resources. And I think that's if they notice that their little plant needs repotted, right? They just need to find that one entry point into wellness.
Yeah.
And I think that's really exciting to me in the life coaching and the burnout space is like, yes, you believe it's all in your brain, but come talk to me and we will open your mind to the wholeness, the wellness that is possible, right? When you get into start pruning and start repotting. Yeah. Amazing growth is possible.
Yes.
Mhm.
So
Well, we're all capable of it
Yeah.
too. It's
Yeah.
just what angle is best
Yeah.
for us as an individual.
Yep.
Where do we need to start?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I love that.
I mean, with me, I just needed a lot of trauma to just kick my butt and say,
No.
well, no, but I mean, it
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
trigger point
Yeah.
where it was like
Yeah.
a big slap in the face. Hey,
Yeah.
wake up.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
your life can be so much better
Yeah.
if you just rip that appendage off.
Yeah.
Really
You know?
just settling until
Yeah.
and you'll have those
Yeah.
little pokes of like
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, that didn't feel good. Oh, okay. No, I didn't like that either. But you just sit there and you take it and you
Yep.
take it and until you just can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so whatever your breaking point is,
Yeah.
like when I decided to lose my weight,
Mhm.
like I had a breaking point
Mhm.
where I was like, oh no, we're done.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah.
And I've never gone back to that. You know,
Yeah.
I've fluctuated, but I've never gone back to that.
Yeah.
And then same thing with like relationships. Like you get to that point where you're like, okay, I finally reached my ceiling of what I will allow
Mhm.
and I'm done.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I will emphasize that to you, like I did to my girlfriend too. And again, from personal experience,
Mhm.
and this is about going back to our conversation about trusting yourself again.
Mm.
Mhm.
You will never, I can promise you this,
Mhm.
you will never put up with that shit again.
Mhm.
I know it's on the podcast, but you will never put up with
Yeah.
that again. Like,
Yeah.
and I know that from a personal experience, and I've
Mhm.
seen it from other people too. And
Well, and it takes a while to practice that skill too.
Yeah.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
That is something that I've noticed because, you know, for those of us in the dating climate right now,
Mm.
you know what I'm talking about.
Oh.
rough out
It-
there.
oh my goodness. You know, it's like I now understand, like, oh, okay, I'm investigating. Oh,
There's they talk
this
about
is my
red.
boundary.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
talk about red flags. It's a thing.
Ooh, yeah.
Yes, yes.
There it
it's a
is.
thing.
There's my
And being
boundary
able
right
to
there.
recognize that
Yeah.
and learning that how it feels to set that boundary.
Yeah.
Because at first it doesn't feel good.
Yes.
It doesn't feel good. It's
Yeah.
very uncomfortable. And you're like, well, this isn't what I would normally do. You know, there's no
Yeah.
comfort in this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then after you set that boundary, then you're like, I'm not going to have that dandelion
Yeah.
hanging out
Mhm.
Yeah.
again.
Mm-mm.
I'm not
Totally.
welcoming any more dandelions.
Nope.
Yeah.
You know,
One of-
so that's
yeah.
building that trust with myself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes is from a life coach named Brooke Castillo, and she says, "Discomfort is the currency of your dreams." It is very uncomfortable to set boundaries. It is very uncomfortable when you haven't done it to eat healthy and to live a healthy lifestyle, right? It's very uncomfortable to lean into uncomfortable emotions and learn to rewire your brain. But if you can lean into that discomfort, you can get through it, and that's where your dreams are. That's
Oh,
where
yeah.
the life you
Yeah.
want to live is.
Well, and you're learning how to set boundaries with yourself
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
respecting your own boundaries
Yeah.
and respecting yourself as a person.
That's part of that healing.
That's part of that healing process.
Yeah.
And if it hadn't been for the dandelion, I
Mhm.
wouldn't know that about myself.
Yeah.
So of course, like I
Yeah.
wouldn't take any of it back.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
I
it
love that.
still sucks.
It still sucks. It
It
still sucks.
sucks.
It's still uncomfortable, regardless
So
of the lessons you
uncomfortable.
learn through
It's
it.
so uncomfortable. But in the end, my
Yeah.
plant is going to blossom
Oh, yeah.
and it will be able to be a support for other plants.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it will be able to
Exactly.
be in a garden that is just the most beautiful
Yeah.
garden ever because that's where I want to be planted.
Yes. I love that.
Oh.
So good. So good.
You girls are
I
amazing.
love
All
it.
right.
I love it.
Well, we're gonna have to do this again.
Yeah.
The next time we meet up once a month. So I think we're just gonna plan on doing this.
Yeah.
Because
Great
I think
idea.
we are. I mean, we think we're brilliant. So
We all have our areas of expertise.
Yeah,
That's
we
right.
do.
That's
We do.
right.
Yeah. Well, and we've known each other for God, how long has it
Yeah.
been?
I mean,
At least over a year or so.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that helps too. I
Yeah.
think like building a
Couple
rapport
years
with each
almost
other
now.
and then hopefully it kind of shows, I don't know, like
yeah,
friendships and relationships evolve as we get older
Yes.
and over time. And
for sure.
right now we're on similar paths, being
Mhm.
female business owners
Yep.
and startups and all that kind of stuff. So that helps, but
Yeah.
just the maturity level too of
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
how things change. So I love it. And I hope that listeners get something out of this, a little bit of comfort, a little bit of guidance, a little bit of, I'm not alone.
Yes.
I'm not the only one.
Well, knowing it's okay to talk about it.
Yeah.
It
It's
totally
okay
is.
to talk about struggle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all have it.
Yes. 100%.
Nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah. And I
Absolutely.
mean, this is why we have girlfriend time too, because
Yeah.
we're all talking about, the guys in our lives or whatever, and they just don't get it.
It's just a
They-
different lived experience.
It is. And they mean well,
100%.
but yeah, we're women are different and we're
Yeah.
wired differently. We think differently. And sometimes
Mhm.
it's good for us to get together and
Absolutely.
riff on things. So.
Yes.
Yeah. Talk about weeds and gardens and soil
Yes.
as metaphors for life.
I mean, as women, we come up with some pretty good metaphors.
I mean, we do.
We do. Yes.
Oh,
All right.
my
Well,
gosh, I love it.
Betty, tell us more about what's coming up for you and where we can find you.
So I have a free Facebook group for people in healthcare. So if someone's listening and they are a nurse or in the healthcare space, I would love for them to join my Facebook group, which is just Facebook.com/groups/healthcare hope. I try to provide a lot of support and guidance in there. And if they want to kind of learn more about me or follow along, they can follow me on Aim for Greatness coaching, Aim for Greatness coaching on Instagram and Facebook. But I'll give you in the show notes, you can put I have a 5-minute video on the motivational triad. So I mentioned how our brain only cares about avoiding pain, seeking pleasure, and conserving energy. I have a free 5-minute video that really explains that in more detail and kind of what to do about it. And that's at aimforgreatnesscoaching.com/motivational triad. And so that's a really good resource if you're curious about managing your brain and managing your stress and understanding comfort versus leaning into discomfort. That's a good place to start.
Perfect. Do you have anything coming up?
I just have a lot of stuff in the Facebook group.
Oh.
I have some more things like the motivational triad that'll be coming out soon, a quiz about burnout. And then I don't know if it's going to happen in July, but I will be starting a podcast soon. So more about that.
Yay.
More about that coming up.
We love podcasts.
Yes, I do actually love podcasts. It's a great way to listen to lots of good information. So.
Yeah. When you get to know people kind of on
Yeah.
a deeper level, and being so busy too, you can just plug in and listen while you're cleaning, gardening, driving.
I
All
have a
the
45-minute
things.
commute to my
Yes.
morning job, and that's I love a good podcast. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Tell us, Jessica, where can we find you?
So I am located in Kennewick, and my website is www.touchofharmonymassage.com. So that website has all my information on my location, on services I provide, but just a general overview. I am one of those massage therapists that is all inclusive. So that means every person on my table gets the same standard of care, regardless of whether they can pay more or not. So it's very important to me to provide the same standard of care to everyone, which is
The
very
hot stones
high.
are the best thing in the world.
They are. Obviously, not everybody qualifies for hot stones
Yes.
and cupping based on your medical history. Obviously, I have
Yes.
to look that over.
Yeah.
But I provide 60, 75, and 90-minute sessions. I have some very exciting news coming up. So follow me on Facebook, Touch of Harmony Massage. And some updates are going to be coming up
Yay.
here right in about August. And it's very exciting. Very exciting. And, you know, honestly, I don't have a lot going on with podcasts and things. I kind of just chime in here and there, you know, and because what I do is physical. So you know, I'm in the office and present with every patient, and that's my specialty. So that's where I focus my energy usually. So
Amazing.
I get questions a lot because I will I'll post my back when you
Yes.
are done with me.
Yeah.
Look like I've been attacked by the Kraken. And everyone's like, does that hurt? And do I have to have that done? And I'm almost like, no and no.
It's individual.
Yeah.
It's individual
Yeah.
because honestly, the first time I had cupping done, I was actually very traumatized by it. It was too much. It was blanket cupping, which is the entire back, and they were fire cups. And so the suction on them was too much.
Yeah.
In my practice, if somebody does not lean towards wanting to try cupping, I do suggest that they try my cupping because my approach is different.
Yeah.
And you know, and I work with you. I speak to you during the process. How does this feel? Is this too tight? I warn you how it's going to affect you both, you know, after the fact and during, and just communicate, right? But cupping doesn't have to be painful, and you know, it doesn't always leave marks either. So it just kind of depends on what's going on per person. Well, no, but sometimes
mine are bad.
sometimes they are. But you know, I mean, sometimes, like for me, if somebody is really, you know, hey, I have an event coming up, I don't want marks, then I can, you know, I can shake things up a little bit and do it a little differently so that it doesn't just leave a gigantic mark.
Or just
Although-
stick with hot stones. And
Exactly. I stick with hot stones and I do a little more hands-on work.
Yeah.
But you know, it's an adjunctive therapy, so it's not something that is required. It's definitely something recommended though.
It's definitely required for me.
Well, I wasn't going to say that.
I messed myself up. All right,
Thank
ladies.
you so much for having us on.
Yes, thank you so
for
much.
coming. This was so fun. We're absolutely going to do this like all the time. All right. I hope everyone else enjoyed it too. And we will see you on the next episode. Thank you. Bye.